Hello, you're watching the English News Bulletin on QPVN channel. I'm Nguyễn, and now let me keep you up to date with the headlines. Party inspection and supervision work in 2025 and the 13th tenure reviewed. Australia provides information about Vietnamese martyrs. Vietnam and India conduct field training exercise on UN peacekeeping. On November the 24th in Hanoi, the Party Central Committee Secretariat held a national conference to review the party's inspection and supervision work in 2025 and the 13th tenure. The conference was presided over by General Secretary To Lâm, attended by President Lương Cường, permanent member of the Secretariat Trần Cẩm Tú, along with leaders of ministries and central agencies, including General Phan Văn Giang, Minister of National Defense, and General Nguyễn Trọng Nghĩa, Chairman of the General Political Department of the Vietnam People's Army. The delegates spent a minute of silence for fellow countrymen who died in the recent storms and floods, as well as donated to support the disaster-hit victims. The report on the results of inspection, supervision, and discipline enforcement during the 13th tenure of the Party Central Committee shows that party committees, party organizations, and inspection committees at all levels have directed, organized, researched, studied, thoroughly grasped, implemented, and institutionalized the resolution of the 13th Party Congress and the resolutions of Congresses at all levels. Speaking at the conference, General Nguyễn Trọng Nghĩa exchanged some experiences of the Central Military Commission and the Ministry of National Defense in directing the inspection, supervision, and discipline work in the military party organization over the past time, emphasizing a number of solutions to better implement the inspection and supervision work to build a strong, clean, and exemplary military party organization, leading the entire military to successfully complete all assigned tasks. General Secretary To Lâm emphasized the shifting to proactive inspection, early warning, and regular supervision throughout the implementation of major resolutions and policies. Under the chair of its chairman, Trần Thanh Mẫn, the National Assembly debated amendments to the press law during its ongoing 10th session in Hanoi on November the 24th. The draft amended press law has fully institutionalized the freedom of the press and freedom of speech, according to the Constitution, while creating a modern, humane, and solid legal foundation for the professional press system to develop in the context of digital media. The deputies proposed a number of amendments so that the law better suits the current practice of press activities, such as regulations on the right to ensure the safety of journalists, specific incentives for reporters and journalists operating in remote areas and areas of ethnic minorities. The draft law on cybersecurity, investment policy for the Vinh Thanh Thủy Expressway project, the National Assembly resolution on mechanisms and policies to remove difficulties in national energy development in the 2026-2030 period, investment policy for the National Target Program on New Style Rural Areas, sustainable poverty reduction, and socio-economic development in ethnic minority and mountainous areas by 2035 were also discussed at this session. The same day, General Phan Văn Giang, Minister of National Defense, chaired a conference of the Standing Board of the Central Military Commission to review the preparation for military defense performance results in 2025. At the conference, the Central Military Commission Standing Board reviewed and commented on a draft report on military defense performance results, directions, and tasks in 2026, the draft resolution on implementing military and defense tasks and building the military party organization in 2026, reviewed and commented on some contents, namely the plan to organize the Central Military Commission Conference, the 15th session, the report on the results of the implementation of the Determined to Win Emulation movement and reward work in 2025, directions for 2026, and the report on implementing all aspects of work. General Phan Van Giang emphasized that in 2026, the government would deploy many key national projects of strategic significance for economic development, defense, and security nationwide, and asked agencies and units to proactively grasp issues and content related to the use of defense land, promptly report and propose to competent authorities for consideration and decision. On the occasion of the 50th anniversary of the National Day of the Lao People's Democratic Republic, December the 2nd, on November the 24th at the Lao Embassy, Senior Lieutenant General Nguyễn Trường Thắng, Deputy Minister of National Defense, congratulated Lao Ambassador to Vietnam Kham Phao Ân Thạ Văn and all officers and staff of the embassy. He highly lauded the close coordination between the two countries' ministries of national defense in 2025 and stressed that the Vietnam People's Army would provide full support to help Laos successfully stage the parade and ceremony marking the 50th anniversary of its National Day. This not only consists of technical, human resources of experience support, but also demonstrates the deep affection and special solidarity between the two peoples. Ambassador Kham Phao Ân Thạ Văn expressed her joy at the increasingly effective defense cooperation between the two countries and hoped that the two ministries of defense would always maintain solidarity and close coordination in the coming time. Within the framework of the visit and working trip in Australia on November the 24th in Canberra, the working delegation of the National Steering Committee for Search, Collection, Repatriation and Identification of Fallen Soldiers' Remains, or National Steering Committee 515 for short, led by Senior Lieutenant General Lê Quang Minh, Vice Chairman of the General Political Department, member of the Steering Committee, had a working session with the Search and Collection Committee of the Australian Army. At the meeting, Dr. Aaron Pegram, head of the Australian Army's Search and Collection Committee, and his colleagues affirmed that they would work with Vietnam to boost research for and collect remains of Vietnamese soldiers. Senior Lieutenant General Lê Quang Minh said that Vietnam still has about 175,000 soldiers who killed in action during wartime that need to be verified and searched for. This is an extremely urgent social issue for Vietnam, but this work is becoming increasingly hard. He asked the Australian side to continue collecting, sharing, and providing information and documents related to Vietnamese soldiers who died or went missing in the war. Over the past week, a delegation of junior officers from the Vietnam People's Army took part in the 4th China-ASEAN Mid- and Junior Level Officer Exchange held in China. The program aims to strengthen mutual understanding and build greater confidence among participating militaries. The Vietnamese and ASEAN young officers visited several academies, training institutions, and combat units of the People's Liberation Army of China, gaining insights into organizational models, training methods, logistics, technology, and overall approaches to force building. We visited many units of the People's Liberation Army of China and gained valuable and practical experience. Through exchanges on military duties, service life, and cultural traditions in China, the program helps build trust and contributes positively to ASEAN-China multilateral defense cooperation. What impressed me the most were the visits to China's historical sites. I learned more about the people, their character, and Chinese arts and culture that will be useful for my work and external relations between Vietnam and China. Joining the exchange is an annual defense diplomacy activity helping effectively promote Vietnam's national defense policy of peace and self-defense. I was very impressed with the Vietnamese delegation during this exchange. They followed every part of the program with great precision. Their questions during visits to units of People's Liberation Army of China were excellent, and especially Vietnam's performances at cultural exchange events always received enthusiastic applause. The exchange opens promising opportunities for cooperation in young officer training, experience sharing, and deeper connectivity among the militaries. Coming up next, VIETNAMESE 2025, a symbol of defense cooperation between Vietnam and India. Vietnam and India conduct field training exercise on UN peacekeeping. The Vietnam-India Bilateral Army Exercise on UN Peacekeeping Operations in 2025, or VIETNAMESE 2025 for short, marks the fourth bilateral field exercise on UN peacekeeping between the militaries of Vietnam and India. This is a practical cooperation mechanism and the most vivid proof of the increasingly substantive and effective development between the two sides when India is the only international partner to date to hold annual field exercises on UN peacekeeping with Vietnam. On the occasion of VIETNAMESE 2025 taking place at National Military Training Center No. 4 in Hanoi, Qpvn reporter had an interview with Colonel Dr. Nguyễn Bá Hưng, Deputy Director of the Vietnam Department of Peacekeeping Operations, to better understand the purpose, meaning, and new training contents of this exercise. Could you please share the significance and highlights of VIETNAMESE 2025, especially in Vietnam-India defense cooperation and building the capacity of forces engaging in UN peacekeeping operations? The Vietnam-India Bilateral Army Exercise on UN Peacekeeping Operations in 2025 is one of the outstanding military diplomatic activities between Vietnam and India over the past years, based on good political relations between the two countries. The VIETNAMESE 2025 aims to improve the professional capacity and coordination ability of the forces in performing tasks of the UN peacekeeping mission. In addition, it has helped strengthen the good defense cooperation between Vietnam and India in the field of UN peacekeeping within the framework of the comprehensive strategic partnership between the two countries. In addition to the engineering and medical forces like VIETNAMESE 2023, this year's exercise brings such new contents as bomb, mine, and explosive ordnance clearance, disaster response, structural collapse, and search and rescue operations, performing the duties of military observers using UAV for reconnaissance missions and helicopters for humanitarian assistance and air relief operations. In addition, this is the first time that bodyguard dogs have been engaged in this exercise. So what value does VIETNAMESE 2025 bring to build the image, prestige, and brand of the Vietnamese peacekeeping force, and what do you expect from the force participating in this exercise? Beyond professional training, VIETNAMESE 2025 is a defense diplomatic activity with profound political and strategic significance, demonstrating Vietnam's strong commitment to joining hands with the international community to maintain peace and sustainable security. For the Vietnamese peacekeeping force, VIETNAMESE 2025 brings an opportunity for us to affirm the bravery, intelligence, discipline, and humanity of UNCLOS soldiers in the new era. Through each exercise, the image of the Vietnamese Blue Beret soldiers shine brighter. Professionalism in action, politeness in behavior, and humanity in all situations. The success of VIETNAMESE 2025 will be a new step forward in the process of professionalization, modernization, and international integration of the Vietnamese peacekeeping force, contributing to enhancing the country's international position and further enhancing the glorious tradition of the heroic Vietnam People's Army. Once again, thank you. After wrapping up the theoretical phase and the class-based practical training, on November the 24th, the VIETNAMESE 2025 moves into its most important part, the integrated field training. The training scenarios require the engineer team to work with the medical forces and the military observers to rescue victims of earthquakes and collapsed structures, provide first aid and carry out casualty evacuation, detect and dispose of bombs and explosives remnants, disperse a crowd accusing UN personnel of sexual exploitation and abuse, and protect the unit. Under the assigned task, Vietnamese and Indian units worked closely together and assessed the situation, used soft communication while taking firm actions to break up the violent crowd. During the mission, some peacekeepers were injured. The medical team quickly reached the site, gave first aid, and transferred the wounded to the next medical level. Previous exercises focused on preparing and deploying engineer and medical teams, but this year we open new training contents with higher requirements such as detecting and handling mines and explosive materials in support of UN peacekeeping operations.
They have enhanced the scope of the exercise, which means which adds to the importance of the exercise, and it's become more meaningful and constructive, wherein we can take some real lessons for our deployment in our field areas.
Vietnam and India have maintained the VIET exercise on a rotational basis since 2018 and upgraded it to a field exercise in 2022. Holding a field exercise with a growing scale and with close coordination between the two militaries helps build the capacity of officers before they deploy to UN peacekeeping missions, while also showing the shared commitment to peace, stability, and regional cooperation. And that's all for now. Remember, you can always watch the news again at qpvn.vn. Now thank you for watching and hope to see you next time.